Welcome to Culture Hash with added production values. We're going to talk about the new Nao album, Saturn. Nao is a British R&B singer with a very distinctive style. Nao has called her style Wonky Funk, and she avoids the rap R&B fusion that is just plaguing the genre right now, with artists just copying The Weeknd like Tory Lanez and Bryson Tiller. Nao has made her own style, and Wonky Funk fuses her traditional R&B vocals with electro production and really interesting instrumentals. Nao's 2016 debut album, For All We Know, was one of the most exciting projects from the year. I reviewed it on my website and I gave it 9 out of 10, and For All We Know was one of the most creative projects I heard in 2016 and gave me a lot of hope for her future as an R&B artist. Although this album didn't sell tremendously well, it created a very loyal fan base for Nao based on just great electro R&B singles like Bad Blood. For All We Know was a great album and really established Nao as one of the R&B and UK artists to watch going forward. And her second album, Saturn, does not disappoint from these high expectations Nao set for herself. The concept of Saturn is based around the astrological phenomena of a Saturn return. The idea behind a Saturn return is that when a person reaches their late 20s, the planet Saturn has returned to its original place within the solar system and creates a period of uncertainty and growing up for a person in their late 20s. Regardless of your opinion on astrology, a lot of people in their late 20s go through a severe paradigm shift and adjust their personalities accordingly, and this is the experience Nao is going through on the album Saturn. This Saturn return is the core theme of the album. Nao recently ended a 6-year relationship and has gone through a personal awakening and a maturing, I suppose. This Saturn return concept is explained quite well in a nice 3-track run at the start of the album. If You Ever is a Afrobeat crossover from Nao. Afrobeat is one of the most popular styles at the moment in the UK, and the drum on If You Ever just perfectly fits this Afrobeat style. It's a decent fit, If You Ever. We don't really hear Nao really go for chart sounds, and the Afrobeat style is quite watered down at the moment because it seems like everyone is doing it. But the end of the track quite nicely leads into the Saturn interlude, which explains the concept of the Saturn return, and then quite nicely leads into the title track, Saturn, featuring Quabs. His vocals and Nao's work quite nicely together. It's quite a nice duet. I really like the lyric, "You leave and return like Saturn to me." It really brings this theme home. The instrumental is quite mid-tempo, which works very well for the two vocalists here. I really like the slow percussion and the creeping guitars in the background. Gabriel follows Saturn, and Gabriel is one of the best songs on this album. Gabriel is a great example of the evolution of Nao's Wonky Funk sound. Compared to her debut album, the sound of Wonky Funk is a lot more defined on Saturn. The electro influence is a lot stronger, and there's far less experimentation within this Wonky Funk genre that Nao has coined for herself. Gabriel is the perfect example of this perfection of Nao's sound. It's got the smooth R&B vocals and it fuses so nicely with this electro production, really funky beat, really nice drums as well. And Gabriel's production just feels really unconventional, and Orbit follows nicely after this. This is a bit more of a rap experimentation from Nao. The first part has Nao singing in her normal voice under quite sparse production here, and then Orbit just goes to another level in the second verse when Nao has really strange effects on her vocals. On the second part, the drums become a lot more emphasized, and Nao goes into a half-rapped delivery here. It's a really strange effect on her vocals. It brings the register down slightly and sounds a bit alien-like in a way. We never really hear Nao experiment with the rap sounds, but Orbit is another strong cut from Saturn. Another track I love is Yellow of the Sun. This is the penultimate song on the album. Structurally, this is a classic R&B track. But what makes Yellow of the Sun such an enjoyable track is the really funky bass line that just supports this. This bass line is just really insistent underneath the track. It drives it forward. But this instrumental evolves and changes as we get into the chorus and changes in the verses. And this is what I love about Nao on Saturn. The instrumentals are just so strong. I feel like she's really taken this Wonky Funk sound from her original album and has just evolved it. Her first album was excellent, and the unique elements of it are really refined on Saturn. Nao has really emphasised the electro parts of this, and it's really displayed in some of the great tracks on this album. Yellow of the Sun, Gabriel, but also singles released before the album like Another Lifetime and Make It Out Alive are given new emphasis within the context of this album. And Saturn is one of the most unique things I've heard this year, especially within this really boring R&B genre where everyone is just copying each other. This LMA album that came out recently, I was really hoping she'd have something interesting to say, but LMA's album was just so generic, and I feel like Nao is really leading this change within R&B. Nao Saturn is a great album, one of my favourites of the year so far. For me, I'm definitely giving this 8 out of 10.